Miguel, welcome to Mint. Thanks for being on, man. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Dude, I'm excited to have you a part of season 6. The biggest season yet, in my opinion. I'm also super stoked to have you on. You're pretty prolific in the space, pretty well-known developer. You're relatively known for the purple hair that we can see on camera right now. But I don't want to introduce you. Can you go ahead and give a quick intro of yourself, how you got your start into crypto, and we'll start there and work our way forward.
Yeah, so I'm Miguel. I work at Worldcoin and I have purple hair. This is like the main things people usually know about me.
Okay.
I just like build a lot of things. That's usually what people know me for. Just building all of the little things that I come up with. And I started in crypto last year on around February with the whole NFT boom. A little before that, I guess. And I've been in the space ever since.
So actually, what have you spent your time doing when you jumped into Web3 initially? Like, what were the first few projects you worked on?
So at the start, it was mostly just like understanding how things work and what I could build with it. So I was building a lot on top of like Mirror, the publishing platform, pretty on with Arweave and smart contracts. And then I got a little more into smart contracts. I joined Showtime, which was an NFT marketplace. And so I built mostly front in there. I guess it's marketplace and a bunch of other really cool things. And I started also looking more into smart contract and Solidity and how to be good at that, cash optimization, all of those things. And so I ended up leaving Showtime to focus mostly on those things. And then a few months later, I joined Worldcoin as a blockchain engineer, but I ended up doing a little bit of everything there. But yeah, and then in the meantime, I did Constitution DAO, which wasn't really related to coding, but it's still really cool.
Right.
And I've done a couple dozen projects on different themes.
Got it. So when you first initially joined crypto, was it through the Ethereum ecosystem?
Yeah, there was a group of friends that had joined on Clubhouse and had decided to just like mix NFTs together, an NFT of a cabbage actually. And at that time, I was playing around with 3D design, like Blender and all those things. And so they brought me in mostly to help with the 3D. I don't know if they knew I coded then. But that was like a big community of people that have ended up working at Aave, Rainbow, Sora, all of these really, really cool companies. And so it served as a way to get into the ecosystem and get to like ask some really smart people dumb questions for a while.
So when you initially joined, did you get like ETH pilled off the bat, or did you have your hesitations of the ecosystem and the overall tech?
I would say I got pretty ETH pilled, mostly because of smart contracts. I had known of crypto for like a big while, but I never got into it because I thought it was just like coins going up and down speculation. And that's like, I don't really enjoy that. And it was the idea of like, actually, this is more of like a global database that you can like put any kind of data in it, which actually brought me in. And Ethereum is like the main platform that has those things. There's new things lately, but at least start of last year, Ethereum was like the biggest one. And so that's where I went.
So I'd argue you're like a little bit different than the typical 20-year-old. There's a lot of people in crypto that love like prompting their age or like showing off their age, which in all due respect, if I was as young as you guys are, like I'd do the same thing. How have you made sense of having like so much experience and so much drive and ambition at such like a young age at 20? Because obviously this started way before you were 22, right? So like, how do you kind of like make sense of that? Like, are your family, like, are they a bunch of entrepreneurs, or like, what's the backstory behind it?
No, my family are architects actually. It was just like I was always interested into like computers and like touching buttons and seeing what happened. I tried to get into coding a bunch of times, failed miserably because I was like trying to learn from university level C books at like 9, so that didn't go great. And then I got into like HTML, and that was more manageable, and went up through here. And for like years, it was just a hobby, like similar to how other people play the piano or did soccer or whatever. It was just like coding as a hobby, and I ended up coding for like multiple hours each day for years. And then there was a time where like I went to college during COVID, so I wasn't great, and I ended up dropping out mostly because of COVID, but also because I was coding in class and not really paying attention to what's what's the goal there. And so that was around the time that I got into crypto, and then I started to realize, like, actually, this is like a thing that I can maybe get a job for and not have to go back to college.
So were you studying software development in college and you dropped out?
No, I was doing philosophy. I
Oh,
thought that if I was to go to college for something, which I didn't really see as useful, I saw it more as like a way to meet other people and have like the whole social experience. I
right,
mean, COVID, that was the idea originally.
right.
I thought might as well just like go for something that it's hard to learn by yourself. I feel like I already had like the background necessary that if I wanted to learn something from scratch in CS, I already knew where to start looking, whereas philosophy is like harder to learn by yourself when you're like not super deep into it. So that's the logic there. Again, it was mostly for the social part,
Got it.
and that didn't end up happening, so I dropped out. But that was the idea, at least.
I think also another cool thing about your story is, of course, the purple hair, which everybody kind of like recognizes you for. I think it's super important to develop personal brands in Web3 because when you're working in DAOs or you're working in communities, you're working on projects, a lot of, I guess, like your personal brand reputation comes into the picture, and you've developed something that's very noticeable about your personal brand, right? So why, of all colors, Miguel, purple, number one, and how often do you dye your hair?
Yeah, I mean, I like purple. I was really surprised because I mostly did this like I have wanted to do it for a while, so why not? When I was in Lisbon last year, and then with like the Constitution DAO stuff, it caught on as a meme. With, like
Right.
the New York Times publishing the whole like purple hair developer, and then that became a thing, and so now everyone like knows about it. But initially, it was just like, oh, I just want to like dye my hair. A lot of people have done that. It never got this big. Um, so it's been really, really nice. And like people recognize me now, which is kind of cool. I usually end up dyeing it around like 3 or 6 months. The color sticks, but the roots
Mm-hmm.
grow.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have to like keep that in control. If
Got it.
I'm like a little bit more, if my hair is not such a mess, you cannot really see them. But I just woke up, so this is how they are.
Yeah. You know, I think there's a
You get the
creator.
unfiltered Miguel version.
Right, right. I was gonna say I think there's a creator in all of us, and I think there's different ways to expressing your creativity. You express it either like through the projects that you work on as side hustles, or you just feel super excited about through your hair, etc. But I'm asking like this next question because you wrote an interesting piece about a month ago titled "Web3 is not a space but a tool," right? And considering you're super expressive, you're super creative, you found ways to express your creativity using Web3 primitives, NFTs, tokens, DAOs, etc. Can you talk more about that article that you wrote and sort of like its takeaways?
Yeah, so that came mostly from like I got into crypto and it was like, wow, there's like so much stuff to learn. There's about the EVM, MEV, NFTs, all of these different things, and zero knowledge proofs, all of that. And I just like dived right into it. And for almost a year, I was just like doing research, just like catching up with the space in terms of knowledge, which is really cool because now I can kind of like explain and know all of those things. But I realized after like doing those things that like the thing that I really, really like to do is build. I'm super happy when I can just like do a project in a weekend and like get shipped, and that's super cool. And that like all of the things that I had learned weren't necessarily getting me close to that. And it was mostly just like recognition that like there's people for the less kinds of things. Maybe everyone can do everything, but like the people enjoy more one thing or another. Like I met some of the Paradigm team last week on the retreat, and there's people there that are super passionate about research and about all of the things that they are learning and uncovering, like making new paradigms by itself. And that is really, really cool. But I feel like that's not my role, or at least that's not the thing that I enjoy most. And it is mostly a recognition that I kind of got lost in the meme of like all of these tokens and tokenomics and all those things. And I still feel like there's some value in that, but I think we maybe just like overweight those values. And there's a lot of people, especially now, doing more like X but with NFTs or X but with crypto, which is not inherently useful by itself. You have to like add something new. I remember a thread that I made actually a few months after I joined the system said like if you can replace your Web3 thing with Stripe, it's not Web3.
Right.
And I mean, I don't want to gatekeep Web3, but I still stand by that in terms of like these things enable really cool things and really new things. Lens is an amazing example of like something that is enabled by the blockchain. I think Worldcoin as well. But there's some other things that are just like not that useful. For something that just like wants to build good things, just like focusing too much on all of these things that are going on every day, it's not that useful. And I feel like it was just like a piece of warning because I went down that rabbit hole for like a year, and it took me a year to realize and get a little bit out of it. So I just wanted to put that out there for anyone else who was feeling around the same.
So that tweet thread, it went viral, I think November 2021, just from like the looks of it. And you sort of like depicted your mental model of evaluating and finding like innovative opportunities in Web3. And you talked about how like the first instinct of most people is just to like make X, but in crypto now, or X, but with NFTs. And I like this one thing that you said. It's like, instead of thinking, how do we build X in Web3, think, what does X look like in Web3? What are we trying to achieve with X? What's a new way to get there? So I guess like on that train of thought, like I'm curious how you envision the creator economy in Web3, because you're a creator yourself, right? You create projects, you're a developer, you're a relatively creative person. And I think a good example is social, like you mentioned with Lens Protocol, for example. So I guess like just using that mental model, like what does maybe social look like in Web3? What does the creator economy as a whole look like in Web3 from your point of view?
I can give you the developer answer, which is like social looks a lot more composable. Okay. And I especially really like the idea of Lens, where like if someone follows you on one platform, they will already be following you in the other one. And so you're kind of like, in a way, all of your followers are like compounding and are exponential, because the algorithm it's going to recommend your content everywhere, not just in one platform. For like a more general answer for creators, I honestly don't know. I feel like these things require like really going deep into the problem and figuring it out. And I haven't really had the chance to do that yet. I feel like it's not going to look like I don't know, there's like this music NFTs meme. I think you're interviewing Cooper one of these days. My feeling for that is like, it feels too fabricated. It feels too artificial, kind of like people trying to push a narrative. Again, it might work, but my feeling of it is just like someone needs to just like come up with something like that from scratch. Like someone who is not poisoned by like the narrative and all of the music and the tweets and all of that needs to actually like build something from a need, instead of from I feel like NFTs could work with music, which is where I feel it's mostly coming from. Again, there's like some really cool projects that's Royal, but like I forgot his name. If he listens to this, he's going to kill me. By Blau and like a bunch of other things, where I think is really cool, and those people actually have much more experience. But then I see other things which I feel like are just like, I have experience with NFTs. Let's try to like talk with some artists and like make the thing. And I feel like that's much more artificial, similar to how there was this Doge meme where like, please adopt the original Doge picture and try to like make it into a meme coin by tokenizing it, and it really didn't take off. And so I always use this as an example, like something that where you try to manufacture something that like happened naturally in some other way. Like Doge worked, but this, I think it was, I don't remember the name of the coin, but this sort of thing didn't. And the difference mostly is what was just like, Doge was not serious, and they actually tried to engineer it, and it didn't work. And I feel in a similar way with music NFTs and a bunch of other creator economy VC narratives. Like, I don't know, it might work. I really haven't done that much research, but my view is just like, it feels too artificial to like actually work.
So let's talk about that really quick, okay? Because I really do enjoy collecting music NFTs. I've worked with artists that kind of like minted their songs, and I really do believe in the narrative, whatever it ends up becoming. I think these primitives have enabled creators and music artists to kind of like find new ways of monetization and fan engagement, and that the technology enabled that, right? So what's happening right now that you think needs to change so that it doesn't sort of stay as a meme and actually like embeds itself as a practical tool, as a practical model for creating music and building a community of fans?
I feel like what needs to happen, and I prefix all of this saying that this is more really just like philosophical on my part more than actually useful. I'm not an artist, I'm not a musician. I really haven't been like micro-focusing on the space at all. So this is just like thoughts from what I see on Twitter, which may not reflect reality. But I feel like the thing is just like, when I see those narratives, when I see these things, but like music and this, like the Salbon thing was also like a big one for a while. It just like pushes me away from building on those ecosystems. in general, because just like it feels like they already have the narrative and they're fabricating. And if I go and make something from scratch, which is how I usually like to make things, just like not looking at what everyone else is doing and just like building my own thing, that's where I feel like releasing it. I don't feel like I can do it in those ecosystems. And my issue is not necessarily that like the things that are there might not work. They might. I have no idea. There's a lot of people throwing money at them, so maybe. It's more of an idea of like I feel like I'm probably not the only builder who feels like alienated from the space because of all of like the busy narrative. And again, I feel like this is similar with like salvo tokens, which are really not that complex, and people made them into a huge thing. And now people are doing like Solvon in places where it made no sense, getting funding from that. And I feel like that just like prevents me from like going and making some really fun thing with like the Solvon NFTs. So it's more of like a narrative versus builder thing than it is like an actual functionality thing. But I do feel like the more builders that we can have working on different solutions to this problem, the best, right? So I feel like it alienates a little bit.
So what are some of the more exciting applications that you align with that haven't necessarily fallen into the meme category?
I've been really excited for a while about like decentralized social. There's like a little bit of a meme there, but I haven't seen that many people talking about it. They talk about Lens, and they talk about like maybe BuildCloud when that was a thing, but they haven't talked it about as a category. And I feel like that has a big potential in the idea of like, oh, you as a developer want to build a social network, you literally only have to like build the web. You don't have to like worry about all of the complex stuff that goes afterwards, and also it's all connected by default. I feel like that's a really powerful idea, even for like people that have nothing to do with crypto, because you really don't need to like know about crypto to build on these things. And then I'm also obviously really excited about civil assistance, which I work at Worldcoin, so obviously. I would say those are like the main two things that I'm like really excited about as in categories.
So let's dive into Worldcoin really quick, because I think it's a really unique project. When it came out, it made headwinds. Why were you so aligned with Worldcoin's values and what it was trying to tackle?
Yeah, so back when I was working at Showtime, we had a project that we were building that would require really strong civil resistance. And so I was tasked with like looking at what was available there, what we would like be able to integrate into the flow for sign up for this. And it turns out that there's really nothing there. Like there's Bright-ID, which is like hard to verify if you're not like part of communities and stuff. And also not that strict. Like someone sufficiently motivated can like register multiple Bright-ID accounts. There's Private Humanity. Private Humanity is good if you don't care about like attaching a video of yourself to your wallet, which some people might. I personally do not. The issue is there's you have to stake 0.1 until the review goes through. It's manually reviewed. It's slow. It's not a thing that you can just like say, okay, step 1, you put your email. Step 2, you verify your humanity, and step 3, you use the thing. Like it's a big, wide gap. And so actually the summary that I went from that exploration was like our best solution was to use KYC, which I really don't like, but it was like the only way of doing it in a way that wouldn't just like alienate a big part of our user base. And then a few months after that, Worldcoin came out, and everyone was just like really upset about that. I remember the day that it came out, literally everyone on Twitter was like tanking on them. And I looked into what they were building. This was around ETH Lisbon, so I also got to like talk to one of the people from the team that was there, and actually ended up getting scanned there. And I made a thread about like why I think this is good, why I think this is like mostly why I think this is private, which was the concern that people have. And obviously people really didn't like the thread. I made another, same thing. And so after leaving Showtime, when I was looking for something to do, which I felt like was great, I felt like it was probably the most interesting project in the space for me. So it feels like there are, from the big problems in crypto, number one, scalability, but there's like a lot of really smart people working on that already. And there's Optimism, Arbitrum, CK Sync, literally everyone is working on that, even Vitalik. And then the civil resistance, which I would say is maybe problem number 2, or at least it's needed to unlock a lot of the things that we've been wanting for a while, like true quadratic voting, quadratic funding, new governance mechanisms, better airdrops, all of those things. And it really doesn't seem that there's that many people working on that. And from the people that are working on that, I'm convinced that like Worldcoin is the actual way to do it. So I decided I'll go there and help them out. And a thing that I really like, I originally wanted to go more in like the game ecosystem. I was talking with Dan Hoffman, I was talking to Big Head, I was talking to a bunch of companies doing this thing. And the thing that got me into Worldcoin is they contacted me and they say like, hey, we know that you said that you want to have a decision on where you want to go for a month. Do you want to like work for us that month and then you can just like go away and never talk to us ever again? Which I thought was like a really good offer for just like playing around with it, right? And what actually got me to stay is I felt like they were really willing to listen to whatever I said. So it's like, I don't know, I feel like the perspective from yours is like super busy back, mysterious, evil even. And from the inside, it feels like literally whatever idea I brought up, it was actually like carefully analyzed and thought about. And even now they involve me in like the decision process and like talking with investors, all of those things. And so I feel like I really felt like I had I feel like the team already really understands the ideas of like privacy and the ethos of Web3 and all of this. But I felt like I could like help them with that, and I could just like help steer into like more privacy preserving, more like all of those things, and help make the system better. And so that I feel like that was
so being recognized, being heard in a project that was so big and so impactful, sort of motivated you to keep going. So I'm curious, like when you joined, you had a bunch of ideas that you brought to the table. You felt listened to. You felt like your contributions were valued. What were some of your biggest concerns in entering Worldcoin that then got addressed when you actually joined the organization? Right? Were they like more of like the consumer facing concerns? Like, are we actually going to scan people's eyes? Like, doesn't that seem a little bit dystopian? Was it more of an infrastructure like play? Like, what were the biggest things that were running through your head?
I mean, we've been doing that for like 1.5 years. So I don't think that, and I knew that I had gone to them before. No, the main thing was just like, I felt like we needed to be much better at communicating with the crypto audience. Because I feel like when the big media companies are looking at this, they say, okay, it's a crypto project. What does crypto think of this? And so I feel like that's great. And also, we do have a protocol, and which I personally think it's really cool, and we want people to build on top of that. So, on those terms, I feel like it was really important for the crypto community to get to know us more and maybe to like understand what we're doing a bit, which they seem really attached to, but would get there eventually. And so my focus, at least I remember like the first actual week where I was at the office in Germany, was let's kind of like make a content plan. Let's write some threads, let's write some articles, let's explain how these things work. And that has slowed down a bit. We want to open source the hardware for the orb next, but that has like a bunch of like license things on top of that. So we're working our way there. But I feel like that was the main thing, is like getting that message out there, because before that we had been in stealth, and so we couldn't really explain what we were doing. And we announced like this is Worldcoin, but we didn't really say that much about how it worked. Or like a 15-minute article that I feel like no one could Twitter read. So I feel like that was like the main concern, and I feel like there's still a lot of work to do, but there's been a lot of effort in terms of just like putting content out there, talking to people, sponsoring hackathons, having like people in East Global build with it. I think in East New York, we were like the second most built project with, and like OpenSea was there. First was Superfluid, I think. Like right before Superfluid, on top of like everyone else. So I feel like that's like people are starting to understand really what we are doing, and I'm really, really
interesting.
happy about that.
So outside of Worldcoin, then, like where are you focusing your energy in the bear market?
So as I said, I've been having a lot of fun with Lens. I feel like there's like great combination there of the developer experience is amazing, and also there's not a lot of stuff in the ecosystem yet, so you can have an idea, like build it really quickly. Probably no one else has done that yet. I built a Hacker News clone because I thought like that was a good basic example of how to make a Lens front end. I built a bunch of utilities, like something to embed your Lens posts in your website, a thing to redirect to multiple front ends, a thing to post your Lens post to Twitter, and I'm building on Web3 YouTube kind of type of Lens, which is basically like a Lens client with a YouTube interface that only shows videos. But I think it's really, really cool because you start having those specialized interface for video and all those things that can then have some more things on top of them. So I've been having a lot of fun in that ecosystem, and then I've also been working on like some things outside that really have nothing to do with crypto. for the first time in like a year. So I've been really excited about that as well.
I guess I want to ask you a couple more questions before we wrap up. What are some like new yet to be discovered opportunities in Web3 that excite you most? Maybe that extend beyond social.
I feel like there are two answers to this. I'll give the answer from like I got into Web3 and I want to like do something and be out from something. What do I do? I still feel like there's a lot of like information asymmetry, and there's people like doing the whole like thread or thing, but there's like I feel like there's an opportunity for someone that doesn't really make threads, just like makes a tweet and a tweet like a summary of everything, or maybe just like a illustration or something that like illustrates these things. I really like visualized value for like Web2 in general, and they've done some Web3 things. I think there's only one person there, maybe, I think, Jack Butcher, but like something in the style, maybe a little bit more complex that explains things in crypto, I feel like would be really welcome. So from, I want to build my personal brand in crypto, that would be like my guess. And then in general of like niches and stuff, I still feel like social is going to be big. I feel like I'm still like really bullish on wallets. My original thesis for like Rainbow was like it was going to be kind of an OS for Web3 with like all of the different applications implemented by themselves. I'm not as excited about Rainbow anymore, but there are some other wallets I'm really excited about, like Sirion, which I feel like has stepped up their wallet game recently, or the one that we're building at Worldcoin, which people will get to see soon. But we've gotten some feedback from like actual people saying like this is the wallet that I give my grandma, which is, I feel like is the golden standard for wallets, and I'm really excited about that. But I feel like there's still like a lot of stuff to build there. Also, the family team, I haven't seen the wallet there, but I talked to them when they were like starting the company, and I'm really excited for what they will come up with, because first of all, they are amazing designers and like builders, and also it seems like they have a more of a focused approach where like the wallet is more like a collection of your Web3 entity more than just like a list of tokens. So I'm really excited to see what they come up with.
Okay, so I want to bring some questions from Twitter. This next one may be similar to the one I just asked, but I'll give it a shot. What is one thing the dev community is excited about that no one else is?
It's one thing that dev community is excited about. I feel like in general, just like better tools. I've been seeing there was like Rainbow Kit that came out to connect your wallet. Now there's Connect Kit from the family team that we say sweet soon. And these things just like make development really like at least front end much easier and much more better for users. There's also WAPME, which has been building for a while, and Ethers in general, who has been around for a long time. And there's been like a lot of really advancements in like developer experience recently, which I feel like no one else cares for but developers. But I still feel like it's really exciting to see. And the other one I would say is, again, like there's some progress with InsanelyX. Again, I have to go back to Lens because I feel like it's the best example of where they build it so that even people that have touched crypto never can still like build on top of it really easily. And that was one of the things that attracted to me. Even if I hadn't really cared about all of the other stuff, I feel like it's really easy to build on Lens. And for developers, that's like really cool because you can focus on like building the more complex things and then just like getting integrated with. So those are like the main two things, but it's mostly just like developer experience.
Cool. And the last question I have for you is name a creator who has used Web3 tech, NFTs, tokens, etc. really well. This one also came from Twitter.
Maybe an example of this would be Mike Shinoda. I've been following him for a while. I'm a big fan of like Linkin Park and on the stuff that he's done. And also he got into NFTs. I don't think he was doing Ethereum. I don't know what he's doing now, but he was doing Tesos NFTs, which has like more of like a community. But I feel like he really got the thing of like actually, this is music NFTs going back to it, but he's not, as far as I know, like any music NFT platform. He was just like doing little songs, doing little drawings, minting them as NFTs. He made an album where like the art, it was funded by NFTs. I feel like that's some sort of the way, at least compared to the other mainstream creators that I've seen getting into NFTs, who maybe just like get a name for that's it, or just launch an NFT and then never do anything about it. I feel like it's a really good example of like doing it like homemade creator base, like more of like a less professional thing, less scalable, but still actually
Amazing.
like understanding
I think
what
this is
they
a
were
great
doing.
place to end off. Miguel, thank you so much for being on. Before I let you go, where can we find you? Where can we learn more about what you're working on?
Yeah, so there's Twitter, obviously. It's M1GelPF. Then my website, miguelpeidrafita.com. There's page that I don't think most people realize that there is there. It's miguelpeidrafita.com/experiments, which is an aggregation of all of these random tweets where I
Cool.
say, hey, I built this or I built that. Those are all together in that page.
Amazing. Till next
So yeah,
time,
those
this
are the
was
main
great.
things.
Appreciate you.